Practices are losing patients and revenue every day because of their internal processes. If you do not use a daily manager's checklist to oversee the internal processes of your practice, you are losing patients, revenue, you have dissatisfied customers, you're going to be maxed out and not have capacity to see more patients, you're going to be at risk of compliance issues. So you need a daily manager's checklist that is overseeing the internal processes going on in the practice. Now, what I'm going to do in this video is show you how you can use a modern business process management software tool that is web-based to help you get line of sight over every single process in your clinic, especially those recurring processes that your staff are following and that you should be following to lower and improve the work environment, lower stress, and make sure that your employees are doing what you're paying them to do. Make sure that you're on track. Make sure that the clinic is compliant, and give you a much more satisfaction and a more efficient practice. Quite frankly, using a tool like this can help you to grow your practice, can help you to create a practice that has greater valuation, that is more scalable and sellable. So you need to pay attention to this. I'm going to walk you through very quickly what is called the manager's daily checklist. Now, this is going to vary from practice to practice. Obviously, this is a general checklist that someone might follow. Every practice will have different needs. Okay, so what you're looking at on the screen here is the daily management checklist. And this checklist is a great checklist that you can customize and that you can utilize in the clinic for either the practice manager or the doctor if the doctor is also the acting manager. And what this does is this is a checklist that we can have automatically assigned to you on a daily basis. So you arrive at the office. When you get there, you go to your computer, you open it up, you open process street. This should be part of the expected daily routine. And from there, you start working through the daily checklist, which is the daily management checklist. Now, as a side note, all employees, a great way to utilize this software and to make sure that you really streamline clinic operations, that you have line of sight to everything going on in the clinic so that you are able to evaluate your employees. You're able to minimize and identify bottlenecks so that the clinic is not maxed out either through inefficiency or just through, the employees not following the processes the way that they're intended. Or you can identify process issues that you can optimize and you can improve. This software will, having each employee, the front desk, any of the assistants, anyone in the practice, having their own daily checklist that they're expected to follow, they're expected to complete as part of their daily responsibilities. It allows you to evaluate their progress, see what's happening in the clinic, because you can look at reports and see, at the beginning of each morning, part of this manager's daily checklist is to review the other employees' checklist, make sure they completed them yesterday, see if there are any notes or anything, because at any point in your employees or the processes here, you can comment, you can make comments at other users so that it shows up in the top right-hand corner. You'll see here there's a little like captions bubble in the top right-hand corner of the screen. It's hard to see probably, but it has a little red dot. So that says and tells me that I have mentions. People have mentioned me in their task, and I know that I can click there. I can see whatever their comment was, because you can comment at the bottom of the task down here, write a comment, tap at to mention other users. You can see here at the very bottom, and that will add it to tasks. So I can go there, I can quickly look, and I can see if someone mentioned me and I need to draw my attention there. They can also assign tasks, like different steps in their process, to me as well, so that whenever I come into the office, I can see what my current open workflows, which is another word for the processes for the day. I can see what current steps, or each step in a process is called a task in Process Street. I can see what task that I have to do from maybe other workflows that span multiple days. I can see if the employees have mentioned me in anything, and I can see clear line of sight to all the processes. Nothing is slipping through the cracks. You can see if it's past due, because we can set dates, due dates for each step in a process. Can have either dynamic due dates that once something is completed, and automatic, at say 2 days out, and the next task is due. You can do that. You can assign due dates on demand. Like if you want to follow up and you want to manually set that follow up, you can choose due dates just right here at the top of. If you look at the center of the screen, it says due date here. You can select this, and you can actually choose the next date that you would like to this process, this task or this step in the process to be due. So I can hit save, and then you can see due date updated, and it's set here. So, and then you can see beside of the task, notice the first task here on the morning tasks is to open software program. So you can see I set it to June 26th, but we're just going to do it for today. But just as an example, you can set due dates, and this allows you to have clear line of sight of everyone in the office. Plus, it makes evaluations much easier. So it helps with, it helps so the clinic is not maxed out. If you have efficient processes that you can see, the employees know that you're observing, they're more likely to be compliant. They're more likely, you can streamline your practice. You can streamline it. Everyone's stress goes down. Everyone is happier because employees have clear roles and responsibilities. They know what they're supposed to do. So it's a very effective tool so that the clinic isn't maxed out. That improves patient satisfaction. That improves patient care. It will make the practice more compliant because there are compliance issues, and this can be a wonderful tool to help with compliance. So you can do all of these things. You can improve efficiencies. You can stop doing double work. You can see if something is missed or has not been done properly, and we know that a particular employee is responsible for that. Then we know who's responsible. There's no guessing uh, it doesn't have to be ambiguous at all. You can have much more clear direction in the practice. The responsibilities are more clear, and you can very easily identify any types of problems. So it can improve the efficiency of the practice and improve the value of the practice, which is huge. This type of software can integrate with other software programs if needed. A lot of electronic health records it can integrate with, but even if it's just used alone as a checklist and a way to make sure that the employees are doing what they're supposed to do, it can dramatically improve the practice and all of these aspects that we've discussed. So this type of software is what you're going to see setting other clinics apart. That's going to help clinics to have better experiences, and have greater valuations, quite frankly. So let's get back to the checklist. So when the doctor arrives, you open, or the manager arrives, you open it up, you open Process Street, you go to your, at the top left-hand corner, it says My Work. You click on that, you would see your top checklist that was assigned for the day is going to be the manager's daily checklist. So you click on that and you would open it up. It would say open software programs. And just in this example, of course, once you became more accustomed to it, you wouldn't have to use this. But for your employees, right, I think that you should always have this step in there. It seems like it would be common sense to do so, but you want to leave no stone unturned here. You want to be very explicit in your instructions for your staff so that if they are not doing these things, because just imagine that someone arrives at the office and they just open the EHR and they look at the schedule and they're not opening email, they're not checking if any emails or faxes or other things came in. They're just not, they just forget to, or they delay doing these other steps. This ensures a consistent, um, process, and it clearly outlines the expectations and responsibilities of the job. And so it helps you I say this over and over, but it helps you to evaluate the employee. And people like to know what you expect of them. If you don't give very clear, explicit direction, then they become confused and frustrated. And you will lose good staff if they're confused and frustrated. Give them direction, give them an opportunity to perform. So I'll stop lecturing, but this is a really important thing to consider. So open their software programs. Once they do that, they can actually, these are subtasks here as well. So let's say that a lot of this software is web-based, and so they open their browser, have, for example, here Google Chrome, and then they open all of the software within a particular folder. Which is a nice little tip if you don't know how to do that, but they can click off as they go through, and you can see that over here on the task itself, this blue bar progressed, showing the progress that they'd made. Now, once they've opened the software, they can hit complete, and you would move to the next step. Now, this is being the manager's checklist, but if you think about it from the employee's perspective, you would also incorporate that into their daily processes and checklists. Now, let's say the second step for the morning task for the manager or the doctor is to prepare for the morning meeting. And if you're not having morning meetings, they don't have to be lengthy. You really should have these because you need to stay on top of your statistics. Typically, you want to look at your patient statistics from the previous day, your collections, the amount billed. You want to look at several key performance indicators, and you just want to quickly put those into typically like an agenda. So here I have embedded into the checklist at the very top, open the manager's daily meeting form and complete it while reviewing the subtasks below. So you could just click here on this. This is a Word document, and it would open up, and you could just a template, and you would complete, let's just say, go through, you would look at the subtasks here, you would review the stats from yesterday, whatever the key performance indicators are that you think are most important and pertinent to discuss quickly with the staff that morning. You would review staff members' checklists. So you would go in, you could run reports. So in the top left-hand corner, there is a tab that says reports. You'd click on that, and you could see what the staff is doing. You could see how they've progressed with checklists. Are there any processes or checklists that they have due or that are past due? You could look at those quickly. You could make a note here, and that way you could address those. You can say, hey, what's up with this particular situation? And you could get clarity, and they know that you're watching and that you're want to help them, and it builds a very good environment. It helps you to identify problems, and that's critical for streamlining the practice, making sure that you're training employees so that they can perform at their highest level, and just catching things before it becomes an issue for the patients. So review the staff members checklist, review the daily schedule. You would scan the schedule, look at anything. Are there any issues with any of the individual patients? And as another side note, every patient that comes in the office, I recommend that you have a new patient day one checklist. If you have like a two-step procedure where on day one, let's say for example, or even follow-ups, but they come in, you should have a procedure for new patients. You should have like a follow-up appointment process, and you could put all these into the software here, and also follow the patients through the clinic. So that you make sure that all the everything is done that should be done. So if someone comes in for a new patient appointment, of course they need to copy and scan their ID. They need to verify insurance. They need to verify deductibles, copays. All those things need to be done, and sometimes those fall through the cracks, or they can in some clinics. So you can say you operate out of this software, and we're going to make sure that we're doing everything that we should. You're following these processes so that nothing is missed with new patients. The appropriate forms are signed and scanned and put into their the electronic health record. You want to make sure that, so at the conclusion of each appointment, what is the plan? What's the plan? Did you order? Do we need to order labs, or were labs ordered? Well, if labs were ordered, how do you know to check and follow up on those labs? If the electronic health record doesn't have a very clear way to notify you, your medical assistant, whoever needs to make sure that the doctor or it reviews the labs, reviews it, and then also does an interpretation, either refers them appropriately or communicates with the patient, either through the portal or through a phone call or through a follow-up appointment, that does not need to be missed. That cannot be missed. So that type of, uh, you know, that type of reviewing of the schedule, but also of having a process for each visit can be critical, and can be really a very helpful way to make sure that nothing is missed, because you would just keep that process inside of Process Street, and that patient would stay on the reports. They would show up in the reports, typically on upcoming processes. So it wouldn't be necessarily your process that day, but it would be set up so that, follow up with the patient in, check to see if the labs are in 1 week. If they're not in 1 week, check to see if the labs are in, in 2 weeks. And you can push it out until those reports come in. And then when they come in, assign to the doctor a task. So you could have that could all be one process. And one of the steps could be, once the labs are come in, assign reviewing the labs to the doctor. And then after the doctor's reviewed the labs, it could be send a message to the portal, call the patient, assign to the front desk to schedule a follow-up to review labs. All these things can be done. So then you assign that task to the front desk. And then the front desk, when they come in and they look at my work, they know what's there. Nothing gets missed. And it may sound, I hope it doesn't sound complicated, but it's a lot more efficient, and it can be a perfect system so that nothing falls through the cracks. I can't tell you how many people don't get labs reviewed appropriately, or sometimes things are outside of range and they should be referred to a specialist, and they're not. And we know that happens. So that is something that can't happen. You want to be compliant. You want to offer a high level of service, and people will be blown away at how well your clinic runs. So review the daily schedule to see if there are any issues or any patients or things for that day. You can cross-reference that with the reports tab in Process Street to see who is, what is, if any of those patients for the days, the day schedule are also in Process Street, just to see if there's anything that needs to be addressed. So you can make note of that in your meeting form. Identify patient care priorities. Again, I think that's self-explanatory. Anything you need to discuss in the meeting, and then assign staff responsibilities if there are things that need to be done outside of their daily duties. And you can do that pretty simply. You can actually assign them a task. Like if you go in the top right hand corner here of Process Street, let's say you identify something right here while you're reviewing all of these steps that you're in preparation for the daily meeting. You can go new, and you can click on task. And if you click on task, it's going to open up an individual task that you can name and assign to someone instead of due date. And that will that can be something that if there's not a clear process for something that you need to do in the practice, you can assign a task that way. So a lot of things can really help you to stay organized, stay on track, and be incredibly efficient. So let's say we've completed all the steps. We've completed our manager's daily meeting form. So we're going to hit complete, and then the next step could be operational readiness. So before the doors open, verify that the clinic areas are ready for patient care. Now, in an ideal world, you would have a staff member that does this, and if anything, the doctor or manager is just checking behind them. But this should not really be the doctor's responsibility. It should technically be one of your support staff. But again, at some point in time, you need to come behind them and check and make sure that they're doing those things, because they can things can slip through the cracks, and people can make mistakes, or they can they can forget to do things. But if this is part of their checklist and they're agreeing and they're checking off that they did it and it's not there, then that's a problem. That needs to be like a verbal warning. You say, hey, we're missing the we're missing the whatever it might be, supply in the exam room. I didn't have any paper for the table. this is on your checklist. You said you did it yesterday. What's up? I depend on you to make things efficient, or we're going to get behind. And so, please do that. Yeah, and you can make a note of that, right? This is a way that you can kind of track what's happening. And if they continuously are, checking things off or saying they're doing things that they're not, then you can help them to, to perform at a higher level and to make sure that the clinic's working more optimally. So, this would be, just verify the clinic areas are ready for patient care. Once you've done that, the next step is ensure all forms and materials are stocked. Again, this is typically like going to be an administrative staff, a front desk staff member. But as a manager, if it was just the manager needs to come behind again, and check and make sure, okay, were these things done? Once you follow behind someone enough, especially as they're initially starting the job and, begin using checklists, you typically don't have to continue following behind them as much once you know their work ethic, and you can kind of see how they're going to perform. But again, come behind and just make sure the clinic is ready for the day. And then you can see, like, throughout the day, monitor patient flow, operations for efficiency, and you can have in here, whatever priorities need to be addressed, or that you need to think about throughout the day to just, make sure that the office is flowing and operating efficiently. So you can see, just continuing on, this is again just examples, but address operational issues, review referrals, authorizations, and scheduling requests. These are all things that, throughout the day need to be monitored and checked up on. Of course, if you've got calls coming in, those things need to be addressed. And so, as the manager, they need to be making sure that whoever's responsible for that is taking care of that job. They're managing. So then you've got end of day tasks, you've got planning and preparation for the next day. But this is a good way to structure the day, go through, make sure that everything's being done that needs to be done. And once you complete this, once you get to the end, you hit complete the checklist. Let's see if we can complete the checklist. What it will do is, we're just going to hit complete on each of our tasks. And you see, as I complete it, marks it out over here on the left. As you work through the checklist, it shows what's completed and what hasn't been completed. You can actually look at this on the reports tab, and it will show you progress, like, throughout the day. And it will show you, if it's not done, what, the next day, what was not completed the previous day. But once you work through the checklist and it's all completed, you'll see we have confetti, and it basically shows us this workflow run was completed. Now, this will show in your reports dashboard what's been completed, again, also the progress, and it's a good way also to look back. So you can look to see, what hasn't been completed in the past. But what I would do is just make sure that you're following a daily management checklist to make sure that the office is operating efficiently on a day-to-day basis, and that those recurring processes are being done and being completed to, maintain a high standard, to make sure the office isn't maxed out, isn't overwhelmed, to make sure that, you're compliant, that your patients are satisfied and happy, and to make sure that you're not redoing work. You're not paying someone two times to redo work that could have been done correctly the first time with the right processes and procedures in place. So it can really help you to smooth out the clinic, the clinic processes, to improve clinic valuation and revenue, and just keep everyone's stress lower and happy. So hopefully this has been insightful for you, giving you some ideas on how you could use a really powerful tool like Process Street, that's a business process management tool, to just streamline management of the office and delegation of responsibilities, to make everything easier, more efficient, and, quite frankly, to bring you into a cutting edge medical office by using a simple and powerful technology like this. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at Process Doctors. We help people to build out these processes, implement them, and train their staff so that you can get started optimizing your clinic very quickly. If you would like to try out Process Street, there's a link in the first comment. Just check that out. You can go there, learn more about Process Street. You can definitely get a free 14-day trial. But if you'd like to talk to me about this in more detail, there's a link where you can fill out a form, and I'll be happy to sit down with you in a Zoom call and just go over some of your needs in a free consultation and see if we might be able to help you. But I do appreciate you hanging out with me and going through this. If you have any questions, please do reach out.